Recognize the Leader of Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to make my contribution to the Small Charges Amendment Bill 2024. Mr. Speaker, I won't be long. Understanding that we're living in some drastic times, and I understand that something must be done in regards to help to bring our youth back into perspective and to have them being more productive citizens. But Mr. Speaker, while we are trying to do so, I believe at some point, if not now, Mr. Speaker, I believe if we're putting so much restrictions in place for persons under the age of 18, I want to believe the time might be right for us to look at the age of consent, because we're here looking at persons under the age of 18, but you can give consent to sexual activities at 16. Now, with having the age of consent there, and a person at 16 can get pregnant. Now, what you're literally seeing is a child bringing forth another child. And I believe the time has come, if we're serious about curbing some of these things, let us look at the age of consent as well. The Prime Minister would have mentioned that men are preying on underage girls. And I believe it's necessary, if we're going to be mature about the situation, that we have to start there, because while, the individual most likely would be out of school having a child, and if fall within, according to this law, they would be outside the legal right and can be subjected to the clause and provision of this law. Also too, Mr. Speaker, when we look at it, how a person can work at the age of 16, yes, they should be out of school by that time, but at the same time, there's still limitations as to what happens with that individual who is under the age of 18. Also too, it may be necessary for us to enforce that not only a child or somebody under the age of 16, but all of us as citizens should always have in our possession a national ID to present to persons who may be inquiring, for example, law enforcement agencies and other persons. We have to now start to get serious about having control of the system by not speculating, because as a young person, you can approach me, and if you approach me and I know I'm going to be in trouble, I give you a name of an individual that I know is over the age of 16 or 18. But then, between the time that you're doing your verification, the child gone about their business and you did not get the right name. So what is necessary also is to ensure that there's also an ID. That person must always have a national ID on them to present to the law enforcers when they ask. I think that is something that we can look at. So those two things, Mr. Speaker, I would want to see us look at. We have to focus on getting the community back involved in the raising of a child, because I see merit to it. I believe the churches, they have their role to play. I believe the school has its role to play, and the community itself has its role to play. And how we can utilize communities to play their role is also, and I am suggesting to the member for Rural South, that all these technical centers that are closed at 1:30 within the schools, I believe it's time for these centers to be reopened and offer certification to complement the Harrison Center in terms of trades and the arts. Because you have all the equipment within these centers that they can be utilized to offer even the first step of self-certification. You have the CVQ. If you start within the schools, and there are persons that on the outside in each community, because you have one at All Saints, you have one in Sweets. So therefore you have Princess Margaret Center, you have one at St. Mary's, you have one at Jennings. If you utilize these IA centers to now start to prepare those persons who would have fallen along the way and didn't complete school, where they can start to focus on a trade starting at that level. So by the time they finish that program and they go to the Harrison Center, they come out more rounded in terms of their knowledge of the skill and the trade. And what you can even do, you can even look to improve the certification from at the Harrison Center, where that individual leaving the Harrison Center can come out with at least a level 2 or a man in a particular field, so that they're more efficient out there on the construction field or in whatever it is that they embark on. What I realize is a problem from looking in the community, because if I have something doing, the first place that I go to find individuals is within my constituency. And one of the challenge I realize is that you cannot find a mason or carpenter at this point under the age of 40. Before time, you used to could find carpenter all around the place. And it means that something is happening. When we speak about, yeah, but again, what is happening? What is happening? They might be working construction, but they do not possess the skills. So they're just laborers rather than tradesmen that we're looking for. And that is something that I think we need to look at seriously and help to train these individuals. And I mentioned that, but I'm saying the Harrison Center, if you utilize the school centers, the Harrison Center, coming out of the Harrison Center with the knowledge from before, in terms of getting you prepared and you knowing your rule and all of that, when you leave the Harrison Center, you're supposed to leave the Harrison Center as an airman and not as apprentice still looking to gain the experience. So I believe we can utilize the school centers in bringing persons up to various certification level, and we utilize the Harrison Center to have them going out into the world as trade men and women. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
Member, you're a teacher, right? You're a teacher. Whatever happened to games? At my alma mater, when I went to school, you had games, first term, games preparing for track, what we call athletic. Second term, cricket, house cricket between houses. Third term, football. What happened to games? That's what I don't understand, because I never had any time to do anything else. But games, that's why I failed one exam, but that's another story, right? Right? But what happened to games? Because games is where all young people gravitated to.
But this is going to require another conversation, because what is necessary?
No, I just wonder.
What is necessary is for a lot of the facilities to be upgraded, because many of them, they're non-functional. And I believe that is necessary now for those that are functional, where you have communities putting various structures in place so that you have a place to go after school, even to help develop the skill based on your interest.